Good morning, mystical misfits. It's 7 a.m. again. Comes around awfully fast, doesn't it? 7 a.m. Central. I know some of you get on in the West Coast. That's 5 a.m. your time. I didn't have to tell you that. That's I don't. I'm not even sure if God's up at that time. So, but maybe we can call God in. Let me just get my Facebook page cranked up. You may tell from my voice, it's just a little more husky than normal, that I have a cold. I think I'm on the back end of it now. I'm hoping so, because there's a huge weekend ahead. And had people praying for me online last night, and that was very nice. Feeling better this morning, so maybe that was part of it. Um, so yeah, for those of you who aren't in the Omaha area, we've moved into our new church facility on the Tri-Faith campus, with joining a synagogue and a mosque on that same campus. And so yesterday was our first full day. We spent a couple hours as staff blessing the building, and then unpacking a lot of stuff. So I think I unpacked about 100 linear feet of books, and have another 80 feet of books to go. So anyway, excuse me. My uh, there are our top 10 principles. We're at number 10 now. Principles for listening to God's still small voice. If you want to hear the other 9, just go back in the videos on the Facebook or YouTube sites. And here's number 10. And oh my, good to see a whole lot of you on already. Hey, Pat and Becky and Joan, and I'm once again on my personal page, because I can't monitor 2 pages at once, or 3. We're streaming to the Darkwood Brew page and also to the Countryside Community Church page. So I want to acknowledge you guys who are joining us too. Number 10, the fact that you have accurately discerned where God is leading you to go. Excuse me. The fact that you have accurately discerned where God is leading you to go does not guarantee the success of whatever it is God is calling you to achieve. Sorry. Because God respects human free will, God's purposes can be thwarted by others, in the short run anyway. Sometimes even God has to switch to plan B and plan C, etc. Also be aware that God may have a different end result in mind than you do. That's a important one. I can serve your voice. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, I think I'll at least drink some of my chai tea here. And yeah, I'm going to need my voice this weekend, aren't I? I'll speak a little softer, though, and a little closer to the microphone. So when it comes to prayer, there's a lot kind of thinking we get engaged in, and if we realized the end result of that thinking, we wouldn't want it, but we think we want it when we haven't examined it. But we want to be able to pray, and God even call us into something. And if God calls us, why wouldn't it work? It's because we're not robots. God didn't create us as robots, and so even a lot of the path that we're on is very highly dependent upon other people around us too. Seeing things in us, or giving opportunities and so forth, and so they can be not open to the Spirit's hunches on this, and so I mean, God's a lot wiser than we are, and I definitely believe that if we're called into something, that in the long run, God gets God's way, but it may take different routes to get there. And so I think even God has to work with probabilities. Probably works with probabilities better than we do. But nevertheless, it's probably part of what makes it being fun to be God. Like even God can't predict in the moment. It's kind of like chaos theory. You can't predict where the next wave crest will be, but actually wave crests do follow a deeper pattern, a complex pattern. So if you were to run a million iterations of a small section of ocean, you could predict where the most peaks will be, but you could never predict at any given moment where the next wave peak will be. I think God kind of works that too. God knows He works with the deep complexity patterns that are underneath everything, but there's still this randomness. There's a chance. There are still free will, and so. But the other piece to be aware of is that, yeah, God may very well have different end results, in God's view than we do, and I think that's even more likely. At least in my experience, that seems to be um, the case. I always kind of project in the future. Well, this must mean this, and I'm almost always wrong. Even though looking back, I might get it right about where God is calling me or like the direction, but I'm a really poor predictor of what the end results are. All right. Well, let's go to it. Hello, Tracy, too, and Renee, and good to see you all. I'm sure you'll be helping me this morning. If you, during our second bell, if you feel so moved to offer a prayer my way, too, I'm appreciative of that. People at 9 o'clock did that. I could tell. I could just feel that energy coming in. It was wonderful. I do not have my singing bowls this morning because they are at the church we did the blessing yesterday, and then we're going to use them, I think, this weekend. Then I'll have them back next week. So we're going to use my Insight Timer bells, and let us begin. If you're not haven't done this before, I'll just simply give it instructions about every 5 minutes. So, and hello, Melody, by the way. All right, let's go. Let's take a deep breath in. Let it out slowly. Let's try another one of those. Deep breath and slowly. As we center ourselves, we internally at least bow, slight bow of the head toward our Creator, signaling our intention to connect, our desire, and also our willingness to surrender a bit of ourselves in service of our Creator. And let's remind ourselves now, for the next few minutes, of the last 24 hours of how our Creator has been there with us, directly or indirectly, directly through love that has been given to us by others, and through love that we've given ourselves to others, but also through those indirect aspects that creation brings us, that our day brings us. Let us focus on these things and give thanks. As the bell sounds, I invite you to bow a bit more deeply to Spirit. I internally bow at the waist, acknowledging the Spirit's presence, giving myself over to Spirit more. This morning, as we look at another person, someone that who's struggling either physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And I invite you to try this morning. Picture your head as the top of a well and your body as that well from the trunk of your body. Picture a hose being placed in that well and water coming in. And as you find an analogy inside yourself of what's hurting, what's sick in the other person, and let's envision that water coming to us and filling us, merging with the dirt and the muck, especially around that area that we can feel that's an analogy to our friend's pain. As that water comes up over the edge, it's muddy, it's murky, but it gradually clears. When that water is running clear, then call to mind the person you're praying for. Let the feeling and sense and energy and vitality of that clear running water be with them. as we continue our meditation, focus now on ourselves and what do we need right now? What do we need today, for this coming week? Bow a bit more deeply. I envision myself bowing on hands and knees, not groveling, rather simply more deeply surrendered to a power, a presence, a consciousness that is willing to help. Sometimes Spirit guides me to a deeper need than the one I've identified. In any case, when you can sense that in your gut, like something you are willing to stay conscious of throughout the day, to keep seeking and hearing and listening, just let your thoughts revolve around that thing and ask for help. As the bell fades, let your needs fade. Let your anxieties fade. Excuse me. I envision myself bowing prostrate. Another metaphor is to envision yourself fully open to the point where the edges of your circle of openness have disappeared. Let the ego down. And focus simply on your will to be in the presence and experience and sense the presence of your Creator. Your openness to that. Don't try to manipulate it. And don't worry if you feel like you've been distracted. You think God can't speak through distractions? Whether Spirit speaks or not, simply be content to be in the presence. Perhaps offer thanks. Perhaps bare your soul a little more. Be. Just be. This time we'll end a bit gently, so those of you who have extra time, may want to take extra time, can do so without being disrupted. For the rest of us, I thank you for joining me and others this morning. Next week we'll be back, and I'll have a survey too I'll ask you to fill out if you would give me some feedback about these meditations. Until then, have a blessed, very blessed day and weekend.